Welcome to We Have a Spiritual Problem. I'm your host, Jeff Armstrong, and I'm glad you're here. In this episode, I want to share with you why I started this podcast, why I believe I'm qualified to lead these conversations, and how I am on my own journey of discovery. This podcast is a space where we explore the concept of spirituality in its broadest sense, open to all beliefs, traditions, and understandings. So let's dive into what makes this journey so important and personal. The idea for this podcast came from a deep desire to address what I'm seeing as a missing piece in many of our lives. We're often focused on physical health, career success, or relationships. But how often have we paused to consider the spiritual dimension in our existence? Let me be clear. Spirituality isn't about religion. It's about connecting with something greater than ourselves, understanding our purpose, and fostering a sense of wholeness. It's about finding our wow and about what is sacred. For me, this podcast is an invitation to myself and to you to explore the spiritual aspects of our lives. It's about asking big questions, seeking meaningful answers, and being okay with the mysteries that remain. It's a journey of growth, discovery, and connection. Now, you might be wondering, what makes Jeff Armstrong the right person for this? In fact, I ask myself this question all the time. The truth is, I am not coming to you as a spiritual guru or someone who has all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I do have the questions. I am coming to you as a seeker, someone who is deeply curious and committed to understanding. This podcast is not just for the Christians or followers of other religions. It's for everyone. It's for the agnostic and the atheist and anyone with a concept of a higher power, whatever that image may be. I want to explore what we mean by spiritual and the sacred. I want to examine what is at the root of our global problems and hopefully do my part to bring us together. I've spent much of my life exploring the different dimensions of well-being through what I call SPIES: spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional, and social wellness. These pillars form the foundation of what I call well-centered fitness. I believe that spirituality is not separate from the other aspects of our lives, but deeply interconnected with them. I believe that the spiritual and the physical are two sides of the same coin. Now, my background is exercise physiology. I'm a scientist. I am also a spiritual person. I can't help but look at the human organism with a sense of wonder, of something greater than self. I can't help but look at the vastness of this universe and say, wow, the universe is so infinitely small as it is grand. I see God in everything. What is it that I call God? What do others call this, if not God? This is the heart of the podcast. In episode 2, Dr. Asim Desai pointed to how both the believer and the atheist can ask the question, can I be wrong? As a scientist, I deal in probabilities. I don't believe that there is a way to prove with absolute certainty that there is a God, just as the atheist cannot prove with absolute certainty that there is not a God. To that end, does it really matter if there's a God or if God matches our image of them? What matters is how we live together on this spinning rock we call Earth. God in the Judeo-Christian scriptures is described as I am and love. And my own spiritual journey has been anything but linear. I was born a Catholic. My family was Mormon for a time. I spent much of my high school years in the Methodist Church. As an adult, I was deeply influenced by Herbert W. Armstrong and the Worldwide Church of God, and by Rob Bell and the Mars Hill Bible Church. Churches from Reformed to Pentecostal to African Methodist Evangelical, I now identify as a Presbyterian. Each tradition has shaped me in different ways, offering unique perspectives and challenges. I've also been influenced by the spiritual minds of theologians and scientists like Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. I believe I've been on a path of enlightenment. Now, I know that sounds a little haughty or whatever you might want to call it, but I believe we're all on this path of enlightenment. And in all of this, God continues to grow larger. Along the way, I've wrestled with questions of faith and doubt. As a geology major in my undergraduate years, I continued to question whether my faith in God and evolution could coexist. And I continue to struggle with what I call small c Christianity. This is that cultural form of Christianity that sometimes feels more like a label than about following Christ. For me, the heart of spirituality is about following Christ. Not just adhering to a set of practices, but truly seeking to live in alignment with his teachings. And trust me, I struggle with this all the time. One of the challenges I've faced, and I think most of us face, is living our lives as a facade. It's easy to present a polished version of ourselves to the world. We're on social media, our interactions with others, the person that we show ourselves at work or in our neighborhoods could be very different than who we are at home or in private. So we often show this polished version of ourselves to the world while still hiding the struggles and imperfections that we're dealing with on the inside. Now, I think true spirituality is about authenticity, or at least it requires authenticity. It's about being honest with ourselves and others about who we are, where we're falling short, and where we need to grow. I often struggle with the perception others have and how that might be incongruent with my true self, especially as a host of a podcast like this one. It's important that we are honest with who we are and that we always strive to become better. I think the evolution of mankind has a very powerful spiritual dimension. This is what I want to explore on this podcast. Gratitude plus attitude, or an attitude of gratitude. Gratitude shifts our perspective, helping us to focus on the blessings in our lives rather than what we've been lacking. It's a practice I return to daily, and it's a theme I hope to explore on this podcast. Now, my core values also guide me in this journey. These are faith, family, friends, growth, health, and impacting others. These values remind me daily of what matters most and help me to stay grounded. Another crucial aspect of spirituality, in my opinion, is other-centeredness. In a world that is often emphasizing individual success and self-interest, spirituality calls on us to turn outward, to serve, to love, to build meaningful connections with others. This aligns with my belief that true fulfillment comes not from what we achieve for ourselves, but from what we contribute to the lives of others. Finally, I want to touch on something that has deeply inspired me. The idea that God is bigger than our understanding. In the Old Testament, we see the word Lord capitalized to signify the greatness and mystery of God. I believe the same applies today. God, capital G, capital O, capital D, transcends our conceptions, our religious practices, and even our language. Interestingly, in science, particularly quantum physics, we're beginning to see connections between the spiritual and the physical. Concepts like entanglement and the observer effect hint to a reality that is far more interconnected and mysterious than we've imagined. For me, the convergence of science and spirituality is a powerful reminder how little we truly know and how much more there is to discover. So as I wrap up this episode, I want to thank you for joining me on this journey. My hope is that this podcast becomes a space for exploration, dialogue, and growth, not just for me, but for all of us. Whether you're deeply rooted in a faith tradition, questioning everything, or somewhere in between, you are welcome here. If you have an idea for a question to explore, a potential guest, or want to be a guest, email me or comment on this or any of the episodes. We would like to have you connect more with this podcast. Let's continue to ask the big questions, seek meaningful answers, and embrace the mysteries that make life so rich. Thank you for being a part of this journey. I look forward to exploring more with you in the episodes to come. Please help us reach more people like yourself by liking this episode, following the podcast, and sharing with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of others.